somewhere in the muddy fields of Normandy, a German Tiger I heavy tank sits hull down behind an earthen embankment, its massive 88mm gun trained on the road ahead. Inside, the crew waits. They've been told they're driving an invincible fortress, and for good reason. The Tiger's armor can shrug off just about anything the Allies can throw at it. Its gun can punch through enemy tanks from over 2 kilometers away. In tank versus tank combat, it's a predator among prey. But here's the thing. The Tiger I wasn't beaten by better tanks. It was outsmarted by cheaper ones. The Tiger I entered service in 1942 as Germany's answer to heavily armored Soviet tanks like the KV-1 and T-34. With frontal armor up to 120 millimeters thick and that legendary 88mm gun, it was genuinely terrifying. Early encounters in Tunisia and on the Eastern Front saw Allied shells literally bouncing off its hull. In one famous engagement, 8 rounds from a 75mm artillery gun struck a Tiger from just 45 meters away and did absolutely nothing. The psychological impact was immediate. Allied troops developed what became known as Tiger phobia. Every German tank they saw became a Tiger in their minds, even when most were actually the far more common Panzer IVs. But let's talk numbers, because that's where this story really begins. Germany produced exactly 1,347 Tiger I tanks between August 1942 and August 1944. That's it, just over 1,300 tanks across 2 years of production. By comparison, the United States built 49 C-324 M4 Sherman tanks during the war. The Soviet Union cranked out approximately 84,070 T-34 tanks. Think about that ratio. For every single Tiger I rolling off German assembly lines, the Allies were producing dozens of medium tanks. And here's the kicker. Each Tiger I cost between 250,000 and 300,000 Reichsmarks to produce. A Panzer IV, Germany's main battle tank, cost just 103,000 Reichsmarks. A Sherman cost about $33,000 in 1942, which would be around $500,000 adjusted for inflation. The Tiger cost roughly 6 times what it took to build a Sherman. You could build 6 Shermans for the price of 1 Tiger. Or, put another way, the Germans spent the equivalent of thousands of medium tanks on just over 1,000 heavy tanks that would spend half their service life broken down or abandoned. Because that's the Tiger's dirty little secret. It was a maintenance nightmare. The Tiger weighed 56 tons, nearly twice the weight of a Sherman or T-34. That massive bulk was powered by a Maybach HL-230 engine that produced 700 horsepower. But even that wasn't enough. The engine was rushed into production without all the bugs worked out and couldn't be reliably operated at its maximum power output of 3,000 RPM. Crew manuals recommended no more than 2,600 RPM. The transmission was notoriously fragile, frequently failing under the strain of the Tiger's enormous weight. The overlapping road wheel system, called Schachtelaufwerk, looked impressive but became clogged with mud, ice, and debris. In the brutal Russian winter, frozen mud between those wheels could immobilize a Tiger completely. Crews had to spend hours chipping ice out from between overlapping road wheels just to get the tank moving again. Then there's fuel consumption. Official German Army figures suggested the Tiger needed 5 gallons of fuel for every mile it drove on the battlefield. A 60-mile journey could consume 150 gallons. With only 125 gallons of fuel capacity across its 4 tanks, the Tiger's operational range was severely limited. German logistics expected a Tiger to travel 121 miles on roads and just 68 miles off-road before needing to refuel. Compare that to a Sherman, which only required 2 gallons per mile. The T-34 was even more efficient. When you're fighting a war of movement across vast distances, that fuel economy matters a lot. The Tiger's complexity meant it required constant maintenance. The manual recommended stopping for refueling and repairs after only 2 hours or 10 kilometers of operation. The HL-230 engines had a typical lifespan of 1,000 to 1,500 kilometers before needing a complete rebuild. By mid-1944, only 15% of German engine production went to spare parts. By autumn, that figure dropped to just 8%. Tigers frequently broke down en route to battle, scattering recovery vehicles along the way and leaving the tanks immobilized before they even saw combat. And recovery? That was its own nightmare. The Tiger was so heavy that standard recovery vehicles couldn't tow it. It took 2 or even 3 SDKF Z9 18-ton half-tracks to recover a single disabled Tiger. Using one Tiger to tow another was officially prohibited because it risked damaging the towing vehicle. Later in the war, Germany developed the Bergpanther recovery vehicle specifically for heavy tanks, but they were in short supply. If a Tiger threw a track or broke down in enemy territory and recovery wasn't possible, crews were ordered to destroy it rather than let it fall into enemy hands. Many Tigers were simply abandoned. All of this created a brutal reality. Tiger battalions needed 2 to 3 weeks of rest after operations to return to full operational strength. Studies from May to December 1944 showed the Tiger had an availability rate around 73%, but only with extensive maintenance and proper logistics. In the chaos of the Normandy campaign and the retreat through France, those ideal conditions didn't exist. Tigers broke down on roads. They ran out of fuel. They threw tracks. Many were destroyed by their own crews not because of enemy fire, but because they couldn't be recovered. Now let's talk about the tanks that beat it. The M4 Sherman and the T-34 weren't designed to be invincible. They were designed to be good enough and available everywhere. The Sherman was a medium tank weighing between 33 and 40 tons, depending on the variant. It was powered by various engines, including the reliable Continental R975 radial engine, and it was mechanically robust. Crew training emphasized maintenance, and the design prioritized simplicity. Parts were interchangeable. Repairs could be done in the field. Shermans that got knocked out were frequently repaired and sent back into action. The Sherman's 75mm gun couldn't reliably penetrate a Tiger's frontal armor at normal combat ranges. Later variants with the 76mm gun improved the situation somewhat, but even then, a head-on slugging match with a Tiger was a losing proposition for a Sherman. But here's the thing. The Sherman wasn't designed to fight Tigers in duels. American doctrine emphasized combined arms warfare. Tanks supported infantry. Infantry supported tanks. Artillery and air power provided overwhelming firepower. Tank destroyers like the M10 and M36, armed with high-velocity guns specifically designed for anti-tank work, hunted heavy German armor. The T-34 followed a similar philosophy, simple, rugged, and mass-produced. Early T-34s were sometimes crudely manufactured, but they were easy to repair and incredibly reliable compared to German heavy tanks. Soviet factories evacuated east of the Urals produced T-34s at a staggering pace. In 1943 alone, 15,700 T-34s rolled off Soviet production lines. That's 1 in 300 tanks per month, 43 tanks per day, 1.7 tanks per hour for an entire year. There were more T-34s built in 1943 than the total number of all German tanks produced that year combined. The Soviets didn't try to match the Tiger 1 for 1. They overwhelmed it. When a Tiger battalion rolled into battle with 40 or 50 tanks, they faced hundreds of Soviet tanks. Yes, the Tiger had a superior kill ratio, but kill ratios don't win wars when the enemy can replace losses faster than you can inflict them. Soviet doctrine evolved throughout the war. By 1944, Soviet crews developed specific tactics for dealing with Tigers. One method was called the Borzoi, named after bear-hunting dogs. One T-34 would stop and aim at the Tiger's left track. As the Tiger pivoted to engage, another T-34 would flank right. The Tiger's slow turret traverse meant it couldn't quickly target the flanking tank. As it turned sharply, the second Sherman would halt and punch shells through the suddenly exposed side armor, aiming for fuel tanks if possible. It was coordinated, practiced, and it worked. The Allies used similar tactics. American tank crews learned quickly not to engage Tigers head-on. Instead, they used mobility. A Sherman could outmaneuver a Tiger. It could get to the flanks or rear where armor was thinner, and they rarely fought alone. Combined arms was the key. When a Tiger was spotted, artillery would be called in. Fighter bombers would be directed to the area. Infantry with bazookas and anti-tank weapons would set up ambushes. The Tiger might destroy 3 or 4 Shermans in an engagement, but if the 5th Sherman got around to its side, the Tiger died. And there was always a 5th Sherman. British forces adapted the Sherman into the Firefly variant, mounting the powerful 17-pounder gun that could penetrate Tiger armor even from the front at ranges exceeding 1,000 meters. Soviet forces fielded the IS-2 heavy tank with a 122mm gun and the ISU-152 assault gun that could knock out Tigers with single hits. Tank destroyers like the American M36 with its 90mm gun and the British Achilles with the 17-pounder became increasingly common by 1944. The Allies were learning and adapting faster than Germany could respond. Air power changed everything. By 1944, Allied air superiority was absolute. German tankers called Allied fighter bombers J-Bos, short for Jagdbombers, hunting bombers. Typhoons, Thunderbolts, and IL-2 Sturmovik ground attack aircraft turned German tank columns into scrap metal. A Tiger might survive hits from tank guns, but rockets and bombs from aircraft were devastating. To be visible from the air meant death. Tigers had to move at night, hide during the day, and constantly relocate to avoid artillery strikes on known positions. This defensive posture completely negated the Tiger's offensive capabilities. There's a famous story from the Battle of Aracourt in September 1944. American M4 Shermans faced German forces, including a significant number of Panthers, which were arguably more dangerous than Tigers in many ways. The Americans won decisively through superior tactics, crew training, and coordination. Historians point to this battle as proof that well-trained crews in Shermans could effectively handle even Germany's best armor when they fought smart, rather than tried to slug it out toe-to-toe. Then there's the logistical reality. Moving a Tiger was a nightmare. At 56 tons, many bridges couldn't support its weight. Special rail cars were required to transport it. Narrow tracks had to be fitted for rail travel, then swapped back to combat tracks at the destination. This process took time and manpower. Routes had to be scouted to ensure roads were wide enough. Meanwhile, Shermans could drive themselves to the front, cross standard bridges, and fit on regular rail cars without modification. By the time of the Normandy invasion in June 1944, Germany was running out of everything that mattered. Fuel shortages crippled mobility. Romanian oil production, which Germany relied on, fell by 44% by May 1944 thanks to Allied bombing. Spare parts were non-existent. Trained crews were in short supply. Many Tiger crews in Normandy had only 2 weeks of training with their tanks before being thrown into combat. They didn't know the Tiger's quirks, its weaknesses, or how to maintain it properly under combat conditions. The result was predictable. Tigers that should have been decisive weapons became stationary pillboxes, conserving fuel and avoiding movement to minimize breakdowns. When they did move, they often broke down. Many were abandoned, not because they were destroyed in combat, but because they ran out of fuel or suffered mechanical failure and couldn't be recovered. The Allies captured numerous intact or near-intact Tigers simply because German crews had no choice but to abandon them. Tiger 131, the only working Tiger 1 in the world today, was captured by British forces in Tunisia in April 1943. Its crew abandoned it after several direct hits jammed the turret and damaged the radio. With advancing British tanks and infantry just 50 yards away and unable to fight back, the crew panicked and fled without destroying the tank. That Tiger now sits in the Tank Museum at Bovington, a testament to what happens when a supposedly invincible weapon meets the chaos of actual combat. Here's the brutal math. Germany's Tigers destroyed an estimated 10,300 enemy tanks and 11,380 anti-tank guns and artillery pieces. Impressive numbers, but they lost 1,725 Tigers in return, and many of those losses were operational, not combat-related. The Allies could afford those losses, Germany could not. Every Tiger destroyed or abandoned was irreplaceable. Every Sherman or T-34 lost was replaced within days, sometimes hours. The Tiger 1 wasn't a bad tank. From a technical standpoint, it was actually quite impressive. The 88mm gun was outstanding. The armor, when properly employed, was nearly impenetrable. German optical equipment and fire control systems were superior to anything the Allies fielded early in the war. But the Tiger was designed for a war Germany couldn't fight. It required perfect conditions, abundant resources, extensive maintenance infrastructure, and battlefield control to recover damaged vehicles. Germany had none of those things by 1944. The Sherman and T-34 were designed for the war as it actually was. Messy, brutal, and decided by logistics as much as by firepower. They were good enough to do the job, reliable enough to keep fighting, and numerous enough that losses didn't matter. When a Sherman threw a track, the crew fixed it in 30 minutes and kept going. When a Tiger threw a track, it needed specialized recovery vehicles and hours of work, assuming recovery was even possible. This is the lesson the Tiger teaches us. Superior technology doesn't win wars. Practical technology properly employed wins wars. Quantity has a quality all its own. As Stalin reportedly said, the Tiger I was a magnificent machine. But it was the wrong machine for the war Germany was fighting, and in the end, it was swarmed, outmaneuvered, and outlasted by tanks that cost less, broke down less, and showed up everywhere the Tiger wasn't. The cheap tanks won not because they were better in a duel, they won because they understood something fundamental about modern warfare. It's not about having the best weapon. It's about having enough good weapons in the right place at the right time, supported by everything else you've got. Artillery, air power, infantry, logistics, doctrine, training. The Allies had all of that. The Tigers, they just had a really big gun and armor that couldn't protect them from running out of fuel in the middle of France. Thank you for watching until the end. You can click in these other videos if you like this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. Have a good day.